Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the third part of our three-part webinar series on zakat. In the past two sessions, Mufti Yahya Moin spoke about the concept of zakat, the philosophy of zakat, and in the last session he talked about issues that are pertaining to the calculation of zakat and which are the types of wealth that are subject to zakat. So now in this session, inshallah, he will be talking about issues relating to distribution of zakat and what are the conditions for distributing it and for it to be complete. So over to you, Mufti Sahib. Bismillah.
جزاكم الله خير. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل فريضة من الله والله عليم حكيم. صدق الله العظيم. In the previous sessions, alhamdulillah, we have been discussing the core philosophy and the wisdom in Sharia behind zakat. The concept of zakat. Thereafter, in the second session, we discussed and we spoke about the obligation of zakat on wealth and the method of calculating it. Today, inshallah, we shall be discussing the rightful recipients of zakat and the conditions for its proper distribution, and how can we ensure that the payment of zakat is free from any type of error or blunders. Additionally, we will also look into the ways to maximize the impact of zakat, inshallah, in the best possible manner. So it's important to note that zakat is an immediate obligation. So any type of unnecessary delay without a valid reason is a sin. And as is apparent and is known, that in general wealth, gold, silver, and by extension, money and all its forms, zakat is 2.5%. This is the obligatory charity. On the other hand, as far as spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned, the Quran Kareem tells us, يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ قُلِ الْعَفْوَ. So anything surplus to our needs and requirements is to be given in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, however, we find that there is always a balance and moderation in Sharia. Islam strongly encourages moderation and balance. And in this manner, in this regard, we find the famous incident of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, radiyallahu anhu, wherein he only had daughters, he didn't have sons, and he wanted to give approximately 2/3 of his wealth in charity, wherein the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused and rejected. And then thereafter he sought permission to give half of it in charity. And then the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam denied that as well. And on the third instance, he asked for a thuluth meaning 1/3, and thereafter the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam granted permission, saying that this is also a large amount. Similarly, another incident wherein a person or a Sahabi radiyallahu anhu, he came to the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he donated a golden egg as charity and declared And he said that this was all that he owned. The Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused to accept it and even threw it aside, saying that there are people who give in charity whatever they own and then thereafter go around seeking sustenance from others and becoming dependent on others. Whereas in the in the story of incident of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam remarked that it is better to leave one's heirs financially stable rather than in need, forcing them to beg from others. Now, whilst coming to the conditions for the validity of discharging zakat, the very first thing which we have discussed is intention or niyyah. I've mentioned two stages where niyyah should be made. One, in the azlihi min al-mal. So at the time of separating the zakat amount, if one calculates their zakat and sets aside that amount in a separate envelope or an account with the intention of zakat. So here there is the intention of zakat should be made or can be made. That is, this is the first instance. Once a person makes an intention of zakat here, then there is no need to make niyyah again each time they distribute. And if this at this point, at this juncture, the niyyah or the intention is not made, then the second juncture is in the i'ta'ihi ila al-faqir. At the time of giving it to the recipient. So if niyyah was not made earlier, then at this moment of giving a zakat to the needy person, one must intend in a zakat. So zakat given without intention at both stages, it will not be considered valid. You can give a large amount of nafli sadaqat, but if it is without intention, then it will not be counted as zakat. It is an obligation for a person who takes out wealth to not only to remove the wealth, but to make sure that he finds the deserving person and gives it to the deserving. This is also an obligation that the zakat that I ensure that my zakat reaches the eligible recipient. The Quran Kareem lists 8 categories of eligible recipients. However, the primary ones are the faqir and the miskin, and in the masalaqat lil fuqara wal masakin. A person cannot receive zakat if they possess wealth equal to
Sorry, Mufti sir, you've gone on mute. If you can just unmute.
am I audible?
Yes, yes.
So it is an obligation that I ensure that my zakat reaches eligible recipients. The recipients listed in the Quran are 8 categories. However, from that, the core ones are the faqir and the miskin. So who's the faqir and the miskin? A person who does not own wealth equivalent to the nisab amount. That person is called a faqir. And what is the nisab threshold? That's around 87.48 grams of gold, around approximately 700,000 rupees, according to the current value. And it is important that the 700,000 a person has by way of gold, silver, cash, and together with it, together with it, those items which are usable are not zakatable items, but they are non-essentials, meaning non-usable. They are not used in the entire year. Not used in the entire year, then these are considered as unused assets, and their value also will be considered in the nisab of the person, which will stop him from receiving zakat. So luxury clothing, sometimes wedding dresses, sometimes very, uh, utensils, and in this manner, there are certain things, such things which are there and which are not being used. So these assets also will be calculated. So if their total worth exceeds the nisab amount, then zakat cannot be taken. And the finding the deserving person is so important. The hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Abu Dawud mentions that if a person gives his zakat to a non-deserving person, or he is negligent about it, so it is as if he has omitted zakat, it is as if he has refused to pay zakat. So this is very important. Another aspect is the condition for the validity of discharging is tamlik. Tamlik in zakat distribution, this is a very controversial topic, mostly misunderstood as well. So tamlik is basically to make ownership, give ownership, grant ownership, or in an easy terminology, can refer to transfer of ownership. It is basically a fundamental condition for zakat distribution or zakat being valid. And majority of the scholars, they have regarded this as a condition. The zakat must be given in such a way that grants full ownership to the recipient. So if there is no individual ownership, person might say collectively, it is given to an institution which looks after the poor people or provides services to the poor people, that it would not be permissible for zakat amounts to be utilized here, because here the basic requisite of tamlik is not found. Zakat must be given directly to the recipient, and tamlik is basically not only to give physical possession. Tamlik means to give physical possession together with full control on how he can utilize it. So here we come to a basically a concept called tawqeel. One is tamlik and the other is tawqeel. And we have to understand that there is a difference between the two. So what is tamlik and what is tawqeel? Many a time a person is actually doing tawqeel, but he erroneously believes that he is doing tamlik, is granting ownership. So tawqeel is basically agency or making a proxy. In tamlik, the recipient becomes the full owner of the zakat amount. They can use it however they wish without any restrictions. In a wakala or a tawqeel, conditions or restrictions are imposed. So if I give you a certain amount, I'm handing you the possession, but I am giving it to you with the objective and with the restriction that you can only give it to so and so institution. You can only use it in a so and so sphere or scope. This is not tamlik, but rather it is a form of agency. So here, zakat will not be discharged. It is as if it is my wealth in his hands as a form of amana, wherein he is basically obeying my commands regarding my wealth. Now there is another aspect with regards to terminology, tamlik. In this sphere, it is known as ibaha. So ibaha is basically making mubah or making permissible to someone my wealth. So a very easy example of this is that on a dastarkhan. So on a dastarkhan, a person is giving da'wah, or he has invited a few people to partake of a meal. That dastarkhan contains food which is owned by one person, but he or she has made it mubah for those people who are having it or who have been invited. But they can only eat or utilize it as long as they are sitting on the dastarkhan. They cannot take it unless permission is given. So this is ibadat, and this is not tabligh. So often asked question comes when the people inquire with regards to giving zakat amount for iftar in Ramadan. Everywhere we find in most of the masajid, the dastarkhan are spread out before iftar. So can zakat monies be utilized here? No, zakat monies cannot be utilized here. Yes, on one condition, that the iftar meal is given like a package. So a small package is made with fruits and whatever savories, etc. And that is given to one person. And basically, he can either eat it under the satkan, or he can either take it to his home and eat it there. That will be tamli. So if this type of scenario is uh, basically done, then zakat monies will be able to, you can be able to use in this manner. In the same way, when we find this the zakat to institutions, hospitals, NGOs. Here also it is very important that we need to ask, we need to inquire with regards to the zakat policy of the institution. How are they spending zakat? What is the way wherein they are fulfilling the requirement of tabligh? How are they making tabligh? So this is very important that we inquire in this regard. And how long are they keeping the zakat funds? Many a time it is noticed that uh, 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line, there are institutions who have not spent zakat amounts. So uh, very important that what is the zakat policy, and who is the scholar under which they have approved it, or they are doing it or carrying it out, carrying the activities under his supervision. So this is also important, wherein tabligh has to be basically given, or transfer of ownership has to be given. Another aspect here is the Hilay Tabligh. Hilay Tabligh, basically it's a deceptive practice in the form of tabligh. So in some institutions we find it is a misleading practice that occurs where a poor person probably might be a student, or a person who is basically a poor or a miskin, is handed money temporarily and then asked to return. So this is not a valid zakat. He is just handing it over to you. His physical granting it in his hand and then taking it back. He also knows, and you also know, that he cannot take it. He does not have the full authority or full control over it. So this is not tabligh at all. This is probably a person is trying to fool oneself. True zakat requires recipient to have full ownership. Money is given, immediately taken back, does not fulfill zakat. So if donating to an institution, like I said, you must ensure that they properly distribute zakat to the rightful recipients. The funds are not used for, say, construction or salaries or operational expenses. Before donating zakat to an NGO, one should verify their zakat policy, how they ensure that it reaches eligible recipients, uh, check, the scholars are overseeing their zakat distribution or not. And for hospitals, uh, so what would be the procedure? So we can see that zakat can be used for the treatment of eligible patients. It cannot be used for paying utility bills, administrative costs. Yes, initially, the person who is eligible, he can make, he can either be given, handed over physically, or either the tamli procedure can be done through a proxy or agency agreement, and that is that the patient or the recipient will make the hospital management the the wakil of collecting zakat on his behalf, and in that way, uh, by the hospital taking control of it, they will it will be as if the person has taken control. And once that things have been utilized and have been received by the hospital, then it can be utilized in any manner or any way where they deem fit. Another important condition for the validity of discharging zakat, it has to be without any personal benefit in lieu of it. So you're not taking or extracting any benefit out of it, any direct benefit out of it. So here we find in this regard the CSR. So any companies have to allocate funds for CSR, corporate social responsibility, and they might, especially if they are Muslims, they might want to discharge their CSR responsibility together with the zakat responsibility. So it is possible, no issues with it. However, whichever institution they have chosen, it will be necessary for them to, make sure that it is zakat eligible and they have a proper policy in place for zakat, etc. Also, with regards to bonus to employees, so bonus to employees, the incentive that is regarded as a remuneration package. This cannot be given to employees as a bonus. So zakat cannot be given there because it is basically you are giving it in lieu of their services. If something which is extra, there is no problem. But if an employee is receiving an annual bonus as part of their salary package, it cannot be paid from the zakat funds. Similarly, domestic helpers, they cannot be given zakat as a work bonus. Yes, besides that amount, besides the package, if they are genuinely eligible, they can be given zakat as separately as a financial aid. Another common question is regarding the tax exemption under the section 80G. When donating zakat to registered charities, if a person gives zakat to a charitable organization and later receives a tax exemption certificate, this does not invalidate zakat. So here, the recipient receives the full benefit of zakat without any type of conditions, giving any service in lieu of it. And the tax exemption is granted by the government as a third party as a separate benefit. So this has nothing to do with taking benefit from zakat. So this is perfectly permissible. Now, identifying zakat payers' responsibility. So we have mentioned this time and again that it is the responsibility of the zakat payer that the zakat amount reaches the mustahiq or the beneficiary. Because people are negligent in this responsibility, today we find such a scenario where middlemen and fraudulent agents have taken advantage of zakat distribution. We don't know what is happening. Everywhere there are agents Now, the month of Ramadan is coming up. There's so many people who are there, they will be collecting, but they do not have no type of verification. It's not possible also, and because of ignorance, no one asks them also in this matter. But this is an issue, and the issue has originated due to negligence in this responsibility. So, what practical solutions can be suggested? We would say that practically it would be better that a person who is a large zakat payer, what they can do, if not individually, collectively, you can hire a dedicated employee to find and distribute zakat to the needy. So find a proper needy people, make the a type of verification. So this is possible. It's not too much of a hassle if a few people come together. A group of like-minded individuals, they can pool their zakat funds, and from those individuals, say for example, 10 people can come together. I know of many friends who are doing like that practically. So, say for example, 10, 12 people, they come together, they pool their zakat funds, and they appoint uh, from amongst them one person to, on an annual basis, to find a proper place and then thereafter distribute zakat himself. So now, one person, if he's doing that, then the next time in turn will come after 10 years. So obviously, this is not a type of burden, you know. And especially when zakat is a type of worship for us, it is a worship, it is purification of ourselves, purification of our wealth, then why shouldn't we, do this? So because this approach ensures that zakat is distributed correctly and effectively, even if it takes a little bit of an extra effort. Bad habits to be eliminated. So many people, while making zakat, or giving out zakat, or distributing zakat, they tend to commit a few mistakes. Wallahu alam, due to some misconceptions or due to ignorance. So some people feel that giving zakat to as many people as possible is more rewarding or is much better. So some believe that spreading zakat among a large number of people will bring more rewards. So I have 100,000, and 100,000 uh, to give to 100 recipients is better than I give to 10 recipients. However, this is unfound. There is no, in the Quran and Sunnah, anything in this regard. In fact, not only individuals, we find that even trusts, those who are NGOs and individuals, they also have this habit that a person comes to you, he has a requirement of 10,000, so the individual or the trust will sanction an amount, say around 40% of it, 50% of it. And the reason they say is that we have the budget that we have, we will be giving it in this way, we will be giving it and helping more people. But it would be better for them, rather than give it to 100 people, give it to 50 people, but fulfill their requirements. This is important. Fulfilling a person's requirement will lead to more reward. Because if a person is needy, and you know that he is needy, then what is the basically rationale behind giving him 40% or 50% of what he needs? Instead of fulfilling one person's full need, they divide it into small amounts for many people. But Islamic teachings, Sharia teachings emphasize fulfilling the need of one person fully rather than giving small amounts to money. Another aspect, a mistake, is basically blindly continuing uh, giving to people, to the recipients, just because they have been receiving in the past. So people give zakat to same individuals every year, just because their father gave it to them, or they have been taking zakat from it since last 5 years. They fail to realize that every year, whenever a person is giving zakat, you have to reassess the situation of the recipient, whether he is still the recipient or not, he is still eligible or not. person is still in need or not. So this is important that a person eliminates and takes cognizance of. Thereafter, we have the Masarif of Zakat, the Quran, the ayat of the Quran that recited before you, wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions these 8 recipients. In this regard, you have to understand that voluntary charity, that there is no specific recipients. One can give it to anyone. Zakat has fixed categories set by Allah. And in this regard, the hadith of Abu Dawood, wherein the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that even the Nabi of Allah has not been given an authority in this regard, whether he can distribute it to uh, whomever he wishes. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared and defined these 8 categories, only they will can receive. The first one is fuqara and the masakin. Both are basically of the same meaning. Fuqara is completely destitute, having nothing at all. Masakin, those who have something but less than the nisab amount. They still are necessary, and they still have don't have enough so that it reaches the nisab amount. Some scholars say that fuqara are those who beg openly, who seek sustenance, and masakin are those who do not beg, nor do they make it apparent that they are in need or they are requiring money. Their poverty is basically hidden. So this is fuqara and masakin. The third category is al-amilina alayha. So basically zakat administrators. The people collecting zakat, people distributing zakat, and the people who were zakat estimators at the time of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So those people appointed to collect, distribute, or manage zakat, they would be given a salary. A very important point that can be understood from this is that this entire institution and the system of zakat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the amilina alayha also that they can take their wages and salaries from zakat. Subhanallah, you can understand the importance of building a self-sufficient system, a system which is, it's stable, sustainable. The entire zakat, basically they are not the actual recipients. They have been made the recipients because they manage the entire system. So, subhanallah, this is something that whenever any type of institution or any type of initiative that we have in mind, this is something that we have to look into and we have to think about it. Looking at the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built with the al-amilina alayha integrated, they can, even though ulama Ikram have said that even though they are rich, they will be entitled to receive salaries from the zakat amounts. However, it is important that, today, historically, they were appointed by the Islamic governments. Now, because there are no Islamic governments, we find that there are people on an individual level. There are NGOs, institutions, madaris, jami'at, they are collecting zakat. So will the collectors coming from these institutions, would they be regarded as the al-amilina alayha or not? So majority of the scholars are of the opinion that they are not, from that category. However, certain ulama Ikram believe that yes, especially people coming from the madaris, they would categorize as al-amilina alayha, and they may be given a salary from the zakat amount. However, here, now the problem is because there is no regulator. Anyway, you will find that if there is no regulator somewhere, there is always a discrepancy and there is an issue. So here, because there is no regulator, Now there is no regulation whether this amilina alayha, what is the percentage that he will take, he or she will take. Now we find that there are people claiming to be amilina alayha, and they are claiming 70%. Sometimes we find 80% from the collection that the zakat that they have collected. Whereas we find that in the time in books of fuqaha, that these 8 categories, al-amilina alayha, you can give around 12.5% because that's the 1/8. 1/8 can be given to the al-amilina alayha. But now 50% or more than 50%, 70%, 80%, obviously this is incorrect and this is a type of injustice and usurping the monies uh, and the wealth of zakat, and this will not be tolerated at all. So hence that is why it is important that if it is better to avoid it, and if a person does it, then it has to be around 12.5% of the collected amount. Thereafter, we have the al-mu'allafatul qulub. This category originally, so mu'allafatul qulub meaning winning the hearts. So category originally included a few different types of people. So one was non-Muslims who were very close to accepting Islam. Islam was very close to their hearts, and it was hoped that once they receive a certain amount of money, they will be inclined towards Islam, accepting Islam. The second was non-Muslim leaders or the tribal kings. Uh, they were given a certain amount to prevent injustice and hostility against Muslims. So it was hoped that they will be given this amount and they will, because of this amount, they will not make zulm or oppression against the Muslims. The third category, new Muslims who are weak in their faith and they needed a type of strengthening and anchoring, and they were also included in the category. Uh, the fourth category here was border people who resided near the border of the Islamic government. Because most of the time they were the ones who protected the Muslim lands. They were also regarded as some the Jamaat who would be receiving from the Mu'allafat Qulub. As far as today's time is concerned, what is the situation? So scholars believe that this category is, some of them believe that it's no longer applicable. So because in the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, when Umar radiallahu anh was the finance minister, and these people, the same people, non-Muslims, who used to receive amount of zakat from the Mu'allafat al-Qulub category in the time of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they came and they demanded, and Umar radiallahu anhu refused, and thereafter Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and all the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they also accepted that and it became an ijma of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. So basically, ijma of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum was with regard to the leaving out of the Mu'allafat al-Qulub in that time and era. However, if in any era, if in any time, once again, if there is a requirement wherein Islam is not ghalib, then it can still be used if the scholars of any particular era feel. So it is better that and collectively an ijtihad is done, and if any country or any area or locality feels, and the ulama ikram, the scholars feel, they can take a decision and this is done. Thereafter, the fifth category is the riqab, meaning the freeing of slaves. So originally, zakat was used to free slaves. So one was the mukatab, the person who made an arrangement with his owner that so and so amount will be given to you, and in lieu of that, you will free me. So such a person, such a mukatab can be assisted by zakat money. On the other hand, even a non-mukatab or a normal slave can be bought with a zakat amount and with the intention of freeing. So in this, both of these uh, are included. As far as the modern interpretation is concerned, some scholars uh, extend this to those wrongfully imprisoned Muslims. So those people who have been imprisoned wrongfully due to dini activities, due to getting involved in deen, uh, or due to just being Muslims, because in non-Muslim lands there are these things are happening, and we all know about it. Those who have been wrongfully imprisoned and they are not able to afford any type of bail, or they do not have so much money wherein they can uh, in any way free themselves. However, in this case, ordinary criminals are not eligible in any manner. Thereafter, we have number 6, we have al-gharimin. Zakat helping gharimin, basically debtors. So zakat can be given to pay off debts to those who have genuine debts. They cannot repay them. The debts have increased all their assets. So all the assets together also cannot pay off their debts. Number 2, those people who have taken on debts, accepted debts, basically as a guarantor to reconcile disputes between the people. So such people are also included. Number 6 is fi sabilillah. So fi sabilillah, it refers to the mujahideen, the fighters in jihad. Some later scholars have included those munqati al-hajj, meaning Hajj travelers who have been stranded without funds. So when he started, he had money, but somehow or the other, he has now lost his monies, but he's still in Hajj. That person may be given zakat. And some Hanafi scholars have included uh, students seeking knowledge or talabul ilm. Talabatul ilm have also been included in fi sabilillah. Now here, there is a discussion with regards to fi sabilillah, wherein some people claim that fi sabilillah, if you take the general meaning of it, it basically means in the path of Allah, means any good cause. It includes anything. This, if you take it on a general or generic or general basis, this will allow zakat for anything and everything. So you will be able to open hospitals, schools, any charity work. And uh, each and every believer will be mustahiq in this manner. Because fi sabilillah, each and every person, a person going to salah is in fi sabilillah, a person walking towards the masjid is fi sabilillah. So that is, uh, if that interpretation is taken. And ulama ikram have rejected that because if that interpretation is taken, then there remains no use of mentioning this eight masarif and 8 beneficiaries. Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentioned these 8? Because He wants to remove others. Now, if we say that in the 7th one, all in each and everything is included, then what is the benefit of counting these 8? Hence, it is not acceptable. This will only include the mujahideen, will only include the munqati al-hajj, those stranded hujjaj, and will only include the talabatul. Thereafter, the 7th category, Ibn Sabil. Ibn Sabil is a traveler who has lost access to his wealth. They can receive zakat. Even if they are wealthy, if they are wealthy back home, they can only take zakat, just enough to help them return home safely and till the basic necessities, to fulfill their basic necessities till they are on the road. So these are the 8 categories of masarif of zakat. Thereafter, preferences amongst these masarif. So we should prioritize family members, number one. Hadith of Tirmidhi states Hadith Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, giving zakat to relatives in need brings double rewards. So one is for helping the relative, uh, and one is for fulfilling zakat, silatul rahim, and as well as fulfilling zakat. As far as relatives is concerned, who is eligible to receive zakat from the relative? So number one, zakat can be given to siblings, brothers, sisters. Zakat can be given to uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, in-laws. However, uh, few people who are ineligible to receive zakat is one spouse. Husband cannot give to the wife, wife cannot give to the husband. Usul, meaning parents, grandparents. Number three, furu, meaning children, grandchildren. One cannot give zakat to these. Non-Muslims, zakat cannot be given to non-Muslims. And thereafter, the Sadat or the Sayyid, the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As far as the descendants of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is concerned, it is important that the hadith also states that this is the sadaqat and the zakat are basically the awsaf nas. It is not the best of the wealth, it is the dirt of the wealth, and thereafter it is not you know, proper for the Sayyids and the Sadat to receive that. However, according to one riwayat of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, this was in the time of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or in the future times, wherein they would receive or they were entitled to the khums. The khums meaning from the Mal al-Ghanima, it was distributed into 5 categories. And from that 5 categories, one category was distributed further into 5 categories. And that 1/5 of that was the haqq of the Sadat, and they were given from that. Because now there is no Baytul Mal, no khums is being given to them. Now, Hanifa rahmatullah alayh states that one is the the Sadat, they receiving zakat, and the other is zakat, or the other is Sadat being forced to seek assistance and beg from others. So this second, the begging, is more severe than them giving zakat. So it is ideal for us if we know that a person is from the Sadat, and we should assist him from the Lillah funds, not from zakat funds. But however, if uh, there is no other alternative and there is only zakat, then we may give zakat to them. It is permissible for them to save them from the human, basically type of disgrace and seeking help from someone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and begging them. In the same way, a misconception with regards to zakat here is the about widows and orphans. So there are certain people who believe that widows and orphans are recipients of zakat, and they are beneficiaries of zakat. So being a widow or an orphan does not automatically qualify someone for as a zakat recipient. They must still be or not be owners of nisab amount. So if a widow or an orphan is financially stable, they do not qualify for zakat. A very important point to understand with regards to management of zakat fund is that some scholars believe that zakat must be divided equally amongst all 8 categories. So mentioned in the Quran Kareem. So these 8 categories, meaning if a person has 100 rupees, he should give 12.5 rupees to each category. However, the majority opinion is that it is not mandatory. Instead, it is recommended to give zakat across multiple categories while prioritizing those in greatest need. The core requirement of zakat is the need and how severe the need is. And the reward is also related to that. you fulfill a need which is most severe, you will be most rewarded. So helping both those who ask for help and those who are those we should search for them. Those who do not ask for help, those who make it apparent that they do not require anything. Also, we could assist such individuals who are debt-ridden. Similarly, supporting wrongfully imprisoned Muslims who lack the means to secure their bail or their release, helping travelers in distress. So one can, segregate it, distribute it. An important aspect is with regards to prioritizing zakat. And giving preference is in emergencies, in times of major disasters, cyclones, tsunamis, earthquakes in a certain area, global crisis is affecting Muslims, such as the situation in Gaza. Then it is our responsibility that we uh, concentrate our major resources towards fulfilling this responsibility. Zakat's funds should be prioritized for those urgent situations where people's survival is depending on monetary aid. As far as the resource management in zakat is concerned, so managing zakat funds properly requires resource management, and this is a sunnah of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, ensuring that funds are used in the most productive and impactful manner. So most impactful. Also, with regards to it is important as far as resource management is concerned, identifying the most deserving recipients, number one. Number two, we have to ensure the direct transfer of zakat to beneficiaries. So it is important without intermediaries taking a major cut, which is the situation now. Nowadays, because of everything online, this has become much easier. The institution has a bank account. We can directly deposit in that bank account and we can attain a receipt as well. At the same time, planning for long-term empowerment rather than short-term relief. We touched on this topic in our first session. So in this regard, it is important to have a balanced approach. So there are some people who argue that zakat should only be used for productive investments like setting up businesses or buying capital assets. Others, on the other hand, believe that it should be used only for consumption needs such as food, shelter. The balanced approach is that both are important. Sometimes the immediate needs must be met first. Long-term empowerment projects should also be considered, uh, provided that they do not compromise the basic requirements and basic requirements with regards to tabligh and the identifying the zakat recipients is there. So these two requirements are there. We can uh, manage the resources in such a way wherein we can increase the productivity. Uh, a very important aspect of giving a gradual and sustained support. So instead of giving, say, for example, we identified a family, uh, a widow that requires 5 to 6,000 a month. So about 5,000 a month. So that would be 60,000 in a year. So instead of giving a large lump sum amount of 60,000 at once, which will be quickly spent, it is important that zakat can be given gradually. Uh, for example, 5,000 per month, transferring to them instead of giving them the full amount upfront. So poor families, children, school fees could be covered quarterly and directly deposited into the school rather than giving it to them. Monthly medicine expenses for probably chronically ill people, they could be provided on a monthly basis. Uh, Monthly food supply ration kits can be given instead of one-time bulk payment. So this will maximize the benefits. So this have the benefit will be more sustained. So here, once again, in this regard, the role of centralizing the zakat distribution system. So, however, there is one issue that is generally many times it is discussed that the zakat should be remain local. So meaning just to give you an understanding. So the zakat calculated from Mumbai should benefit the Mumbai poor people. Zakat calculated from Bangalore should stay within Bangalore. This probably might seem initially, it would have been logical, but now it does not ensure fairness. Many small towns and villages have more poor people, very few donors. So if you restrict zakat in this manner, one of the objectives of zakat, and that is فإذا يكون عدولة بين الأغنياء منكم, transfer of funds from the rich to the poor will not take place. So those in wealthier cities will receive more and they will keep getting wealthier. The rural people, the rural population will be neglected. Another effective approach is allow zakat to be distributed wherever the need is the greatest. So also, when we speak about this, the importance of verification in zakat distribution, we have practically seen that individuals, zakat, also organizations, they seemingly neglect them altogether. So this is something which is very neglected because they only work with regards to application. We went to many organizations, there are institutions, there are NGOs, they only work with regards to, okay, so many applications for education, so many applications for health, so many applications for ration kits, but they do not have the time or they do not do is that they do not verify in any manner, in any way, uh, those people who have basically they are seeking help. So you have to basically maintain a list of the verified recipients. You need to verify conducting home visits, background checks is very important, especially nowadays, ensuring financial transparency. So this is something that is important. Uh, this was the responsibility of the individual person. However, the individuals are not doing. At least the institutions who have been basically set up for this very purpose, they should at least try and do this and try and verify the recipients before making any type of payments to them. With regards to navigating the cash crunch, many a time we hear this issue that zakat, say for example, 50 lakhs, and to give out 50 lakhs one time is very difficult. So what should we do? So one is it can be paid in advance throughout the installments. The person estimates their zakat will be 50 lakhs, say for example, so they can prepay 2 to 3 lakhs per month. So in this way, majority of the zakat liability will have been discharged before the year ends. So this also prevents basically a last minute burden and ensures that a person is supporting consistently. Alternatively, assets can be given in zakat itself. So gold can be liquidated and given. Shares can be given. 2.5% of the shares itself can be given. Land itself can be given. Property also, assets can be given. So this is also possible. Another aspect is many a time we have seen that people make investments on a regular basis with regular returns solely for generating zakat funds. So solely for zakat, for paying zakat, and that is also helpful many times. So profits from these investments will be used to pay off zakat. However, this also the amount will be zakatable. The corpus which is has been invested also will be zakatable. Now, with regards to avoiding mistakes and not basically, if you say etiquettes of zakat giving, do not destroy your charity. So this is the ayat of the Quran Kareem. لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Don't destroy your charity. Do not nullify your charity by bilman. Bilman meaning basically not annoying or embarrassing the recipients uh, that I have given you. You know, every time you meet or you tell the people, I have uh, given, and this person has taken zakat from me. Not embarrassing. Quran warns against this. So by Bilman also means reminding your generosity. You remind now and again, you know, I've been generous to you. This totally, totally takes out the reward of that charity. Or Bilman what other is basically hurting them by your tongue, by your speech. So many a time announcing publicly that this is the recipient, you know, making the recipient feel indebted, treating recipients with disrespect. So all this is basically against the etiquettes of zakat. So in our Sharia, a person who is taking your zakat, you have to feel indebted to him. That by you accepting my zakat, I have been able to discharge my zakat. So we have to feel indebted to the poor. And if you're doing that, then this is a very sensitive issue wherein a person has done a good deed and that deed is destroyed. So the shaitan tries to, destroy a person's good deeds in many ways. Initially, he will try to stop us from doing the deed. So once when the deed is already done, then he will try and take out the ikhlas. So change the intention. Now, if you change the intention, if it is done for the people and not for Allah, then it has no value, no reward, nothing at all. Similarly, if the intention is right, then he tries to destroy it by making you, involved in this one and other, trying to hurt the recipients. And this is something that we need to be very Sa'il, the right of a Sa'il. Very important that there are people who are begging. Every day on a daily basis, we come across beggars. So not everyone who asks for zakat is truly needy. However, Islam, our Sharia teaches kindness towards beggars. So Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that even if a beggar comes riding on a horse, he still has a right. So now it's very important to understand that basically if he's riding a horse, then he is wealthy. But at the same time, he is asking and seeking help, begging. So these two are contradicting. But it is his right that number one, أَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ, that you do not in any way, reject him. There are many people, you've got to go and earn. You come and, you on a horse and basically, if you don't want to give, don't give, but don't say things uh, that to reject him in such a manner. The second haqq of a sa'il is that you should have husnul dhan, have good faith at that, probably, possible he is true. He is telling, but even probably it is very difficult for me to believe that I won't give. You don't have to give, but you don't have to say anything rude in front of him as well. However, in today's time, we find that there are professional beggars. So professional beggars, they have a proper profession. They are exploiting charity. Such people should not be given zakat. Instead, zakat should be directed to those truly in need. So those people who cannot come out and beg. There are people who in their home, disabled, there are elderly individuals, there are sick people, chronically ill. They cannot even come and beg. They cannot even come and ask outside. Who is going to help them? It is our responsibility. Families struggling to survive. So we need to search. We cannot just go out and give anyone and everyone who is asking. So not to waste our zakat, not to give our entire zakat. There are many people They just give the entire zakat to beggars outside mosques or on the robots, on the signals. They basically ignoring the truly deserving individuals. So this is making them mahroom. Yes, you can give a certain amount, a small amount, especially from the nafil sadaqah to them, if you want. However, a large portion of zakat should be given to verified recipients. You know, people who are sick, who are homebound, they cannot come out of their homes, and they should be prioritized. Yes, to a certain amount, uh, this incident of Mufti Taqi Uthmani and Mufti Shafi said, Mufti Taqi Uthmani mentions I was once uh, with my father in a car, and we stopped at the car stopped, and there was a sa'il who came. So my father gave him a certain amount. So I spoke to my father. I said that why have you given? You know that he is not a mustahid. So the reply of Mufti Shafi Uthmani was that there are so many ni'mats that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given us, and we are not deserving of it. So, what if I gave him a certain amount even though he's not deserving? This is also a way of thinking, but it doesn't mean that we give the entire amount, entire zakat to that. No, basically, a certain amount of charity to be given, and with this intention that, oh Allah, you have given me so much without me being deserving. So, if I give a certain amount and I show that kindness, so that also is something which is not harmful. And this brings us to the culmination of this session. And inshallah, if there is any Q&A, we can go ahead with it, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan Mufti Sab for the insightful sessions. So we have about 4 or 5 questions. I'll quickly take them. One says, I contribute zakat funds to an NGO who collects funds for critical surgeries for extremely poor Muslims who don't have the funds. These are utilized only for the surgery. Is this permissible?
Yes, so one is to identify that those who are utilizing that amount for surgeries, they are basically, zakat eligible. And number two, there is a type of procedure for tabligh, or either physically they are given, or there is a tabligh, a type of an agency form wherein they are made the owners, and then thereafter the hospital receives that amount uh, as charges of the surgery, etc. Then it will be fine.
So he should verify from the NGO whether they're following the Tamliq
Yeah,
process.
yeah. So what is the zakat policy?
Okay.
And I believe nowadays it is very important to highlight this fact that there should be a zakat policy for every NGO, every institution who is taking zakat. So any institution taking zakat without a zakat policy, we should not give it to them.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Is it necessary to give this amount for surgery, for example, to the patient directly, or can it be given to the hospital for this specific patient so that they can utilize it for that patient's surgery only, nothing else?
Yeah. So the hospital can only be given, and it will be valid if the patient gives makes the hospital the proxy to receive the zakat amount on his behalf. So if that is there, then there is fine, no problem.
Okay. Jazakallah.
The next question was relating to the previous session. Is there any clarification on zakat on PF amount?
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, I got the opportunity of checking out the different types of PF extensively. So what I have come to the conclusion that the employers, and there is not employee contribution, there is an employer contribution. So the employee contribution is something wherein a person is able to withdraw to a certain extent. But until and unless a person doesn't leave the service or the job, he is not entitled to receive the employer contribution. And together with that, there is a certain allocation to the pension fund as well. So in that case, only the employee contribution will be regarded as in a person's ownership, and zakat also will have to be taken out. But as far as the employer contribution is concerned, if a person is still in service, and they're not able to withdraw it in any manner, then it will not be regarded as their ownership, and no, they have to pay zakat in that.
Small correction here, Maulana. Whatever you have said, employer and employee, uh, it's from the segregation perspective, but both the amounts are deducted from the employee contribution only. So what they do is when they generate the contract, they'll say that company is paying this much, but in the contract, if they say 12 lakhs as the amount, the both the contribution are taken from employee and then updated in the EPF portal. And when you say that employee can take out some portion of the amount, it's not a differentiation that it would be taken out from the employee contribution. It's on the overall amount. So let's say in my PF account, if I have 5 lakhs and if I apply for the withdrawal from the EPF, then some restrictions are there. For construction of house, 25% will be given. And that amount will not be divided from employee or employer. It will be from the total amount.
Yeah, and again, withdrawal is under circumstances. For example, like brother mentioned, to construct a house. But
Yeah.
apart from such conditions, you cannot actually withdraw any money until you retire. That's what I think I understand from the EPFO construct.
So
So I
because you see, the reason I'm saying that is because yeah, when I was researching this issue, I practically got a few passbooks, because there are the person who gets the account number, that unique account number, they basically receive a passbook also. And in that passbook, there is this bifurcation of employee contribution, the employer contribution, and together with that, there is that pension fund as well.
that
And
is true.
Yes, so
Yeah,
what
that's
happens is, let's suppose 10,000 is the PF amount, 5,000 they show it as employee contribution, 5,000 they show it as employer contribution. And again, what goes into the EPF side is 5,000 will be shown directly in the employer contribution, and from the employer contribution out of 5,000, 1,250 goes to the pension contribution, and the remaining amount goes as employee. So overall, the total amount 10,000 is from the employee CTC only, but bifurcation is shown like this in the EPF portal.
okay, so you mean to say that the employer does not contribute at all? It is
No,
only shown there, the employer
yes.
does not contribute. So this is everywhere, this is the case on certain companies.
no, I don't think
Everywhere
so.
in India, they do it like this only. In CTC, they'll mention as the total amount, but when they show it as in the bifurcation as a salary slip, it will be shown as employee and employer, but the total amount is from the employee only.
But
Brother,
and as far as the withdrawal is concerned, so the person, the employee can withdraw the employee contribution as well as the employer contribution.
Yes, only restriction is the pension amount 1250, which is credited separately in the pension bucket, cannot be withdrawn by the employee, even though if there is a certain restriction of 25% or 30% for marriage or construction of house. So that is fixed. No one can withdraw.
so Mufti sir, you are right that I think some organizations, the employer contribution is over and above the employee contribution. It will not be part of your employee CTC. So I think on that point you may be right. The brother is right, but I think it doesn't apply to all the companies. Some companies have employer contribution over and above. But the bigger point I want to understand is that the funds lying in EPFO, right, whether it's employee, employer, pension, whatever, right, you cannot withdraw it unless you have a need. For example, you want to construct a house or maybe for marriage, and that to a certain percentage. So those funds are not really available to you until you actually retire. So I'm just wondering that how are they zakatable right now when I've not retired yet?
So basically, if what you mean to say, you mean to say that you're not accessible for you.
No,
If
they're
you have the
unless
need
someone
for
corrects me.
basically, I don't know if I understood right. If you have, say, for example, if you have a certain amount and they have given you the capacity or that 50% is withdrawal or withdrawal, you can withdraw. So, won't that amount be regarded as your? Why will not you regard that
No,
as?
I would like, maybe the brother who just spoke some time ago, right? Can you withdraw the money from the EPFO without any valid reason? Does the government allow?
It works like this. So whatever amount that they are deducting, they show it as a security for the employee retirement. So in case Normal restriction is if employee is continuously working for 60 years, he can only withdraw after 60 years once he sees the service. But what happens is, in case if an employee loses his job or does not want to continue, then after the completion of the service, he needs to be not employed for continuously 2 months, which will get reflected in the employee passbook. Then that employer is eligible to withdraw the complete amount from his EPFO account. But if he is in service, then a restriction applies where he can take only for home or marriage.
You see, the point that is being mentioned here, that the person is only allowed to withdraw for a valid reason. So this does not negate ownership. Because you see, this is basically, this restriction is there for the keeping in mind the objective and the purpose of the corpus, and for the benefit of the employee. He does not withdraw it for any petty reason. You know. So otherwise, this is not something that is negating any type of ownership.
It
Yes,
is,
that
right?
amount.
I beg to differ, but if I'm not getting married, if I'm not going to buy a house right now, I cannot withdraw those funds. I think I have to give proof or something, right? It's just not. I just can't make a claim and say that, hey, I'm getting married every single year, and that's why you give me the money, right? I don't think it's going to work that way. So I don't know whether if the funds lying there are they really it's not a bank account that can go and withdraw anytime. That's my understanding, but I'd like to be corrected. I don't know how easy or how
So
difficult.
is there, when you say that you have to give a valid reason, do they have given you the list of the valid reasons which will be
Yeah,
acceptable?
Yes.
correct.
So
Yeah.
when you withdraw that, they have list of options that needs to be selected and justification need to be provided. Then only you will be eligible. And again, based on the reason, that amount is set as the upper limit. For some things, 25%. For something, they have set it to 10% or 15%. Technically, that amount will be in my name in my passbook, but I cannot withdraw it till the time I am not employed. If I'm not going to do work after 40 and I have stopped these services, then after 2 months, I can go for complete withdrawal from the pension amount. Otherwise,
Okay.
only after 60 it is eligible.
So in this regard, when we speak about the valid reasons, it is important this aspect that came to light, that otherwise a person is not able to withdraw. I would love to know what are the list of the valid reasons that person might, it is already stipulated, or any reason I can say that, is it up to me? There is a certain disposal that they have given to me, or it is totally on their discretion that, this only you have to mention these, and only then will I be eligible.
Only restricted reasons: marriage,
House.
job loss, and then medicals.
Okay, only three.
And during Corona, they have set the option of for Corona reasons. If you have been hospitalized, they have given that option, but right now that option is not available.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, so we'll have to rethink about this once again, inshallah, keeping this aspect in mind. Jazakallah khair for those who have brought this to light, inshallah. So once again, we will reconsider, inshallah, after getting or factoring this new dimension, inshallah, with.
So Mufti Saab and Rashid Saab, right? There was a question in the last session regarding the investment that you do in Rehbar. For example, if I invest, say, 1 lakh rupees, out of 1 lakh rupees, only 50,000 is eligible for zakat. The remaining 50,000 is not really applicable for zakat. That was my understanding given last time, right? In the last session, is my
Yes,
understanding correct? Now,
correct.
my point is that right, if I was actually investing that money in a machinery and then giving it on rent, then
Mhm.
that amount is stuck and I really cannot withdraw it. So I can only give zakat on the rent that I receive. In the case of Rehbar, right, you are pretty liquid as far as I know, right? If I give a withdrawal request for my funds or my investment, I get it back in maybe in a couple of weeks, right?
Sure.
So with that in mind, does that still hold good that only 50% is zakat eligible, the rest is not? Because it's as good as a bank account right now, if you ask me, right? I can withdraw the whole amount in a couple of weeks. So does that then change the ruling from the investment done in Rehbar?
Well, as far as what I have understood the question, I mean to say that because it is readily liquidable or it
Correct.
is, can be liquidated probably
Yes.
within a month's time, that is
Yes.
why you feel that the entire amount should also be zakatable.
Yeah, that's a query that I had. Yeah, I don't know whether I'm right. Just a query that came to my mind, that is just like a bank account. So
See,
what is
basically,
the
uh, because when we, like we have also mentioned that when we make the zakat calculation, so uh, the date of zakat calculation matters. So on the date, because that amount is represented by an asset, at that time you are the owner of that asset, you have a certain share in that asset. So obviously, it won't be zakatable. Yes, as far as the liquidation procedure is concerned, so they have other means to say, for example, obviously when a person wants to liquidate, it is possible that a third party is buying, and if there is no buyers there, then Rehbar's other companies are the one who buy it out and then provide the liquidation. So the share is also bought, but just because of the time frame being less, we cannot regard that as a liquid asset. At the time of zakat calculation, it is still a fixed asset.
Jazakallah.
right?
The next question is, can we give zakat to relatives who have own house or site, but they have huge debts as well, besides finding difficult to fulfill their needs?
Own house or
Site, like a plot.
okay, okay. So you see, when we spoke about zakat recipients, we also spoke about those assets which are unused assets lying with them equal to the amount of nisab. So, for example, if there is that plot unused site which is equivalent to or making their own entire value or net value equivalent to 700,000, then obviously you will not be able to use the capital. They won't be deserving.
But then the debt amount can be reduced from that.
Yes, if there is a debt amount, then obviously. So one more thing that I have noticed, we have to be very careful in this regard as well, especially in Mumbai. There are people, many families, they are in huge debt. Okay, but at the same time, they do not want to reduce the standard of their living. So basically, they have resorted to zakat to keep maintain that level of the standard of living that they had earlier. And this is very strange that such people are also receiving zakat. There are people who are ready to give them zakat as well. I don't know how, in what way, they present themselves. But just because of debt doesn't mean that, to maintain the lifestyle. There are probably 3, 4 cars are there and luxury cars are there, and just because of the debt, people are, asking for the car. So this is also something which we should keep in mind.
Next question is, can we give zakat to Indian Sayyids as they are not actual descendants of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as heard from an Imam during last Ramadan?
So we address this question with regards to Sayyid.
Okay. I think if the borrower is not able to return the hand loan taken some years back, can I consider it as zakat for the current year? I think it was discussed in the last session also. It cannot. The last question, which I can take, it says, I recollect reading about Rehbar Foundation. Do you receive zakat funds and do you also provide ATG certificates? Yes, we do collect zakat funds, and this is used mainly for livelihood cases. People who are zakat eligible and want to have a source of livelihood. Maybe we get them an auto or we help them set up their business, etc. And we have a meeting once every first Saturday of the month. Recipients come to our office. We do some investigation and then we approve the zakat amount to them. And we also provide ATG certificate on the donation amounts. Inshallah, we'll share the more details about the foundation to all the people who have registered by email, inshallah. So with this, I think we can conclude Mufti sir. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, everyone.
سبحانك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بفضل العزة عما يصفون. سلام على المرسلين الحمد لله.